To inspire myself spiritually,
Ooh, that's a good one. To inspire myself spiritually. Well, I work in the Akashic Records, meaning I open the Akasha, the Akashic field, and I tune into the intelligence that I'm connected to, and I explore in those realms. I also listen to or read the words of sages of all kinds from different denominations and religions, because I feel like that those words and that wisdom that they gleaned at that time helps me to connect to that source energy, that consciousness that I access in the Akasha as well. And to me, it is so inspiring, because it's like there's so much just validation or affirmation of what's available in basically in the amount of love I've experienced in those fields. How much love can you take in? And love is inspiring. I mean, it always is for me. It always is. That feeling of feeling whole and seen and welcomed to fuck up, to do whatever you need, but that life is there for you. Like that feels like that spiritual inspiration and wisdom that I crave, to be honest. I probably don't get enough of it.
We could all use some of that.
Yeah.
What are the Akashic Records? They are a place beyond time and space, where all things exist simultaneously, where an energetic imprint of all events, thoughts, and decisions have been recorded. Akasha is a Sanskrit word meaning ether or primordial substance from which all things are made. It surrounds us and flows through us. The Akashic Records are a multidimensional library of light containing a record of every soul's journey, everything that has ever existed and is yet to come. Existing on the etheric plane, a place of pure energy and light beyond time and space, the records contain an energetic imprint of everything. All your past lives, your choices, your influences, and everything that has happened up to this point. The Akashic Records have been referred to as the Book of Life or Infinite Wisdom. Every religion has its own version of the records. For example, in the Bible, the Akashic Records are called the Book of Life. The Old Testament mentions a collection of knowledge written on the fabric of reality. The records were accessed by ancient people of various cultures, including the indigenous American, African, Indian, Tibetan, Bonpo, and Chinese, just to name a few. It is held that the ancient Indian sages of the Himalayas knew that each soul, Jiva, Atma, or entity recorded every moment of its existence in a book, and that if one attuned oneself properly, then one could access that book. Now more than ever, people are being called to reconnect with the Akashic Records. This reconnection with the records have a pivotal place in the movement as our planet is being gently shifted into fifth dimension consciousness, or what some call the New Earth. it is important to hear that inner voice that is calling you forth to reconnect with the records too. Seen as though your records are a dynamic reservoir of information about your soul in all its lifetimes, it is now your birthright to access this energetic database to gently and lovingly assist you with every step of your personal transformation. No previous knowledge is required, only your heartfelt desire to reconnect with yourself and a willingness to practice. An easy and foolproof way to reconnect with the omnipotent you, your soul, and all the selves you created through cycles of time is by the practice of Nada Yoga. There are a number of themes that are very familiar to people who practice Buddhist meditation. Mindfulness of breathing, where you focus on the rhythm of the breath. Walking meditation that revolves around the feeling of the footsteps as you walk up and down a path. The internal repetition of a mantra, such as Om. These are all designed to help ground the attention in the presence of this very moment, this present reality. Along with these more well-known methods, there are many others that can serve a similar function. One of these is known as inner listening, or meditation on the inner sound, or in Sanskrit, Nada Yoga. These terms all refer to attending to what has been called the sound of silence, or the nada sound. Nada is the Sanskrit word for sound, as well as being the Spanish word for nothing. An interesting and meaningful coincidence. The nada sound is a high-pitched inner ringing tone. When you turn your attention toward your hearing, if you listen carefully to the sounds around you, you'll hear a continuous high-pitched sound, like a white noise, beginningless, endless, sparkling there in the background. See if you can discern that sound and bring attention to it. For the moment, there's no need to theorize about it or wonder about exactly what it might be. Just turn your attention to it. See if you can detect that gentle inner vibration. If you are able to hear that inner sound, you can use the simple act of listening to it as another form of meditation practice. It can be used just like the breath, as an object of awareness. Simply bring the attention to it and allow it to fill the whole sphere of your awareness. We can make the inner sound a primary object of attention, letting it fill the whole space of what is known. Very consciously, we leave everything else, the feelings in our body, the noises we hear, the thoughts that may arise, remaining on the periphery, at the edges of our scope of interest. Instead, we allow the inner sound to completely fill the focus of our attention, the space of this awareness. In this way, it directly supports the establishment of tranquility. We can use it just like the breath to dominate our attention and to be a single object to help establish focus and stability, steadiness, and a unity of attention in the present. If we focus on the inner sound for a length of time sufficient to bring such a quality of firmness and steadiness, where the mind is resting easily in the present, we can then allow the sound to fall into the background. In this way, it becomes like a screen on which all other sounds, physical sensations, moods, and ideas are projected, like a screen upon which the movie of the rest of the patterns of our experience is displayed. And because of its plainness, its uniformity, it's a very good screen. It doesn't interfere with or confuse the other objects that are arising. Yet it's very obviously present. It's like having a somewhat modeled screen or a distinctive screen against which a movie is being projected. So that if you pay attention, you are aware that there's a screen on which the light is being played. It reminds you, this is just a movie. This is just a projection. This is not reality. We can thus let the sound simply be a presence in the background. And because of that presence, it helps to create a reminder. It supports the recollection. Oh, these are just mental formations arising and ceasing. All formations are undesirable ultimately. If something is formed, if it's an it, if it's a thing, it is impermanent in its very thingness. Anything is not permanent, unlike your soul, so it is not real. And it does not serve the soul to attach itself to illusions. So don't attach, don't entangle, don't identify, don't take it to be owned or who and what we are. Let go. The sound's presence can support the identification of these impermanent objects, whether it's a physical sensation, a visual object, a taste, or a smell, a mood, a refined state of happiness, or whatever it may be, is seen as empty and ownerless. It helps us to sustain an objectivity, an unentangled awareness, an unentangled participation in the present. There is the flow of feeling, the weight of the body, the feeling of our clothes, the flow of moods, tiredness, doubt, understanding, inspiration, whatever it may be. It helps to sustain a clear objectivity amid patterns of mood and feeling and thought. It helps to allow the heart to rest in a quality of attentive awareness, being that very knowing awareness that receives the flow of experience, knowing it, letting it go, recognizing its transparency, its emptiness, and its insubstantiality. The inner sound carries on in the background, reminding us that everything is an attribute of nature, coming and going, changing, that's all. This is a truth we might have intuited for years, but which we forget because of the confusion which comes from attaching to our personality, our memories, our moods, and thoughts, discomfort in the body, or our appetites. The stress of attaching to the experiences of all our days since birth keeps the attention confused, entranced, and bewildered. Nevertheless, we can use the presence of the nada sound to help break the trance, to end that enchantment, to help us know the flow of feeling and mood for what it is, as patterns of nature, coming and going, ebbing and flowing, changing, doing their thing. They are not who and what we are, and they can never really satisfy, or, when seen with insight, disappoint us. As you develop this inner listening as an aspect of formal meditation, you begin to notice how listening to an auditory object helps you to learn to listen objectively to your thoughts and your moods. In many respects, the chatter of our thinking mind has no more meaning than the scintillating buzz of the nada sound. It's just the vibrations of the thinking mind formed into conceptual patterns. Just a long, continuous, murmuring stream of vibrations. We can thus learn to listen to our own thinking as we would listen to a stream of water, a splashing fountain, or a chorus of song from a flock of birds, with the same kind of freedom from involvement or identification. It's only the murmuring brook of the mind, that's all. No big thing. Nothing to get excited about. Nothing to get disturbed about. Now, that's quite easy to say, but we do tend to be infatuated with our stories, don't we? We love our stories, particularly the ones about ourselves. The good we've done, the bad we've done, the memorable, the poignant, the regrettable, and what we want to do, what we hope to do, what we fear will happen to us, what others think of us. These patterns are all manifestations of the I element, the habits of thinking in terms of I and me and mine for a lifetime. These habits are what most effectively and repeatedly draw our attention into the realm of concepts, which then carry the mind away. If a story has me in it, it tends to be much more interesting than other more remote tales. This is extremely natural, a basic habit for all of us. Accordingly, much of insight meditation, the development of Vipassana, is about just that. Learning to recognize the I-making and mind-making habits within the thoughts we experience. True insight is the recognizing of these habits and not being drawn in by the story, seeing its emptiness, its transparency, and letting it go. How to focus your listening. Close both of your ears by physically blocking them. You can use your fingers, but you can also use foam earplugs, which you can buy at any convenience store or drugstore. This is a great way to seal the ears without creating other sound. They are a great way to turn your perception of sound inward. When you have been practicing for a while, you will not need to physically close your ears. Through mental constraint, you will be able to concentrate on the internal sound to the exclusion of external sounds around you. Concentrate on the subtler than subtle sounds. As some sounds become obvious, continue to seek the most subtle aspect of the sound. This takes intense focus. Strive to listen to all aspects and frequencies of this internal sound. Find the most subtle part of the sound behind, above, within, or beyond the sound. Through deliberate and sustained concentration, fix your attention on that part. You may hear several sounds at once. Some will become pronounced. Some will be more subtle. Focus on the sound that is highest in pitch and has a sparkling iridescence. This is the inner sacred sound. Finding the most subtle sound calls for a comparison of different sounds. We concentrate on one sound, engage the mind in evaluation, then concentrate on the next and compare the two. This also takes concerted concentration and focus. If you are hearing the internal sound and your mind wanders, bring yourself back to focused listening. The most obvious indication that you have lost contact with the internal sound is if you begin talking to yourself. If you are listening, you can't be talking to yourself. If you are talking to yourself, you can't be listening. When you do start talking to yourself, recognize it as a cue to go back to focused listening. Like extending the length of our focused listening in the external world, we want to cultivate the longer periods of uninterrupted, internally focused listening. As you listen with greater and greater focus to the nada, and your concentration becomes unbroken, your internal dialogue stops. Initially, when you are able to sustain concentration, you may feel a certain joy of accomplishment and congratulate yourself on being able to do so. This commenting breaks the continuity of the flow of concentration. Just notice that this has happened. Have a little laugh, then return to focused listening. Over time, the periods of uninterrupted flow without self-comment will become longer and longer. Your mind will become steadily fixed on the sound in an unbroken stream of concentration without other mental activity. Whatever sound the mind is drawn to, settle on it, adhere to it, and become absorbed in it. The first sounds you hear may be loud. As your practice grows and your ability to focus increases, you will begin to hear the subtle aspects of sound. The sound may take many forms: a low rumble, a high sustained tone, a shimmering vibration, a resonant ringing or buzzing. The lower sounds are those usually heard first and are sometimes felt in the body as well as heard in the head. Then comes the mid-range sounds that are more resonant. The higher sounds have a more sparkling, modulating quality. Initially, it is best to not get attached to one particular sound. The sounds you hear may change from day to day, from meditation to meditation. It is the concentration on these internal sounds that is most important, rather than which sound we hear on any given day. Ultimately, after regular steady practice, your concentration will settle on the highest, most luminous sound. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika lists external sounds that are similar to those that may be experienced internally. The ocean, thunder, a large waterfall, low drums, large bells, conch shells, horns, flutes, tinkling chimes, bees, or crickets. We must learn to discriminate between the sounds of our own body, our breath, blood pumping, or the electrical energy of the nerves and the other deeper sounds behind the audible sound, the nada. The Pradipika tells us to, quote, listen with one pointedness to the sound of the nada within the right ear. Why must we only listen with the right ear? What is perceived by the right ear is processed by the left brain. The left brain is also where the center that processes speech formation is located. By focusing our listening attention specifically on where speech is formed, we override our ability to make words. If we attentively focus our listening there, it will be difficult to be talking to ourselves. We help to quiet the mind. Empty of internal thoughts and external distractions. Focus your listening so that you hear nothing but the nada without interruption. Pull the sound from your right ear into and around yourself. Let the sound pour into your head and your body as if you were a pot filling with water. Let the sound vibrate everywhere inside of you. Put yourself in the sound and the sound in yourself. Become the sound and let the sound become you. Feel the connection between your vibration and the vibration of the greater universe. Know that they have always been and will always be the same. Indescribable bliss arises in the heart of the yogi who meditates on the nada.